Alright, so Zumrin is using a little bit of price action. So he's looking for, these three swing points here that are circled. And the last swing point, or the third swing point, right, he wants it to be higher, a higher low. Or I guess in the opposite, for the opposite case, he would be looking for, I guess, a lower high. So, and a second component is he's using this stochastics. So he needs the stochastics to go into an oversold or overbought situation. And in this example, we're using 10 and 90 as our oversold and overbought threshold levels there. All right, so we're going to be looking for essentially a low point made, right, and looking for a price reversal, and then we'll be looking for a higher price reversal up here for point 2, and making sure that the stochastics gets into the oversold territory, and then the third swing point here, or the third condition, we're going to make sure that this is a higher low, right, higher than the previous low point, and also make sure that the stochastics gets into the oversold territory as well, right? So, so our final signal that we want, right, is going to be on this reversal bar here. And so I guess the reason why this becomes a good example is because, right, we have condition 1 that happens, way over here. This is what, approximately 30 bars away over here. And then we have another condition over here, about 15 bars away. And so when we build a solver for condition 1 over here, right, we're going to get an output, essentially on this reversal bar, but we need the output from that solver over here in point 1. We need to somehow get that output over here to the, to the third condition. So in other words, we need to get that output pushed over, approximately 30 bars, or essentially however many bars it takes in order to build a a trade setup that has 1, 2, and 3 conditions that all happen at different times, or different bars away from each other. So that's going to be the other learning component about building a system in BloodHound. So quite often you have condition 1 happening at some point, and then condition 2 is going to happen several bars later, and if you have a third condition, that's going to happen typically even more bars away. So all right, let's see, I did have to make I made some adjustments to the stochastics, so that way it moves into this oversold and overbought territory a little faster. So the stochastics is using a 5 and 10, and also I had to make some changes to the SI swings high-low indicator as well, right? So the indicator that's drawing my swing points here, I had to make some adjustments to it as well, so that wouldn't give me some intermediate swing points. So let me pull the indicator up. So the SI swings high-low, I had to set my swing sensitivity to 7. I had to bump that up a little bit. So when it's set down to its standard 3, or even a little higher, 4 and 5, it came up with some intermediate swing points for some reason. So apparently there's something in Dorson's formula for this indicator that I think it detected this bar here with a long wick. For some reason it detected that as a new low point. But anyways, so just to note, sometimes you just have to fiddle around with the indicator settings so you can get this indicator to to display properly for for your situation here. So all right, so what I'm going to do to build this is I'm going to build a solver that looks for essentially condition 1, looks for condition 2, and then looks for condition 3. I'm just going to build the individual conditions and then explain how to link them together so that because condition 1, we're going to get a signal on this bar, and then condition 2, I imagine we're going to get a signal on this second reversal bar, and then condition 3, where we actually want the final trade signal, is going to happen right on the third reversal here. So, all right. So let me open up BloodHound. And let me give this a name here first. And, oh wow, that's right. Welcome to another Lucky Friday the 13th. Alright, so I have my BloodHound file named. So now let me create a new logic template here. And let's see. I'm not sure what to call this system, but I'll just make something up here. Higher high and a lower low with the stochastic setup there. Alright, I guess that's good enough for a name. Alright, so condition 1. We've got 2 components that I can see so far. We're looking for, since this system does seem to be very specific, to using these type of median Renko bars here. And so in Zimmerman's example, he was actually using the SI backtest Renkos here, just like this. All right, so this kind of makes it easier for this for the set of conditions to be built as well. So we're going to be using the price inflection to detect when price is reversing, and we're going to use the crossover to detect when the stochastic is crossing, the oversold 10 threshold and the overbought 90 threshold there. So let's grab a inflection solver first. And we're just going to be looking to see when the close price essentially reverses. Right, so inflection is just another a fancy mathematical term for a reversal or a change in direction. So we're going to use price, and we're going to use the closing price, and there we go. There's that. So, right, looking for the price reversal, that's the easy part. And next, let's grab a crossover solver. And so the crossover will apply that to the stochastics here. right, so I'm going to set indicator A to our stochastics. And keep in mind that I had to change the settings to speed it up a little bit. And next, I need to change indicator B to the 10 level of the stochastics. Right, and so that's going to be a fixed value here. Right, and we'll set that to 10. And all right, so there's our crossovers. So we also can see that, right, it's telling us when the stochastic crosses down below 10, and we're not interested in that crossover. So we can eliminate that by changing the evaluate so that it only evaluates the long side only. And so now we only have the cross ups, right? The cross above the 10 value there. All right, so now the next key is to make sure that this inflection and the cross up, happens at the same time. And if we look at these, we can see that they're off by 1. Right? You can see that the bars are off by 1. So the one that happens first, which happens to be the price inflection, happens first. So let me mark this here. All right, so that's the price reversal right there. That's happening first. If we take a look at the stochastics cross, we can see it's happening 1 bar later. So if we essentially both of these conditions, right, the price reversing and the stochastic crossover needs to happen, it's one condition, right? And we've broken it up into its two individual components for BloodHound. And so those two components, create our first trade setup condition. And they both need to have a signal on the same bar, because if we connect them together with an AND node, we can see we get nothing. And that's because they're not signaling on the same bar. So what we're going to need to do, right, is let's take a look at the stochastic crossover. I'm going to put the arrow on the crossover bar there. And now let's take a look at the close inflection, right? So what happened 1 bar sooner? So what I can do is I can use this look back period. And essentially what that does is it's extending the signal forward, right? It's extending that signal forward. So now the price reversal now is giving an output when the stochastic crosses that 10 level. So now if we look at the AND node, all right, so now we're actually getting, right, an output when both conditions are met. So, all right, so there's, that's condition 1, and condition 2 is going to be pretty similar, but we will have to change some things here. All right, and here's another good idea, is to name your logic nodes. So that way you kind of understand what is coming out of this logic node, right? So this AND node, essentially what's coming out of it is it's telling us when condition 1, right? So that all these solvers that are plugged into it is building condition 1. Right? So once when you start building a bigger and bigger a bigger and bigger system, as you look back upon it, it's really helpful to have things named so you kind of understand what's going on here. So all right, so now let's move on to condition 2 here. Now, typically, or I shouldn't say typically, but sometimes you can use the same solver over again, right? Because once again, right, we're looking for a price reversal and we're looking for a cross down. But remember, our ultimate goal over here, right, where the condition 3 or the final condition happens, and we're actually looking for a trade signal over here where the arrow is, right? That's going to be a long trade signal. So, but what we're getting is that for condition 2, we're actually getting a short output. So we're going to need to reverse this to a long. So that way condition 1 gives us a long, condition 2 gives us a long, and then condition 3 is obviously going to give us a long as well. So we need a long output from all 3 conditions, all right, in order to get the final trade signal to be a long. So so let's see. There's a couple of ways I can take this second condition and essentially reverse it from a short into a long. One way is I could build another solver and just reverse the output. So here we go. I could actually, I guess, let me just I'll grab another inflection solver and just show it to you. All right. Okay, so once again, we're looking at the close inflection. However, we're going to reverse the output here. So the slope in direction, we're going to set that to 0, and we're going to use the slope against direction. Right, so we actually want an output that's against the direction. Right, so as price reverses down, now we're getting a long output, which is against the direction, because the direction of the reversal is down, but we're getting a long out instead. Right, so that's one way I could do it. I could build a solver like that, and that's probably a little easier to understand to do it that way. But I guess I'll show you both ways of doing this, so that way you guys have both options, and also this just kind of adds a little more learning to this. All right, so the next thing that we need, next component, is a crossover. Right, so we're looking for the stochastics. Right, we're looking for the stochastics to cross the 90 threshold there. So let's build that. All right, so once again, I'm going to set indicator A to our stochastics. And remember to change the periods on the stochastics. And we're using the D plot. And then indicator B, we'll set that to our fixed value of 90. So we're looking to cross that 90 threshold there. right? And once again, the typical output for the crossover is we're getting a short output there, right? Because we're getting a cross down. So let's turn that in direction output off, and we're going to use this crosses against direction, which essentially reverses the output. All right, so now we get a long output when it crosses down instead. And once again, we're interested in the long only there. So we'll set that up like that. And let's connect both of these together with an AND node. And we get no output, so that's expected, because once again this inflection solver, we're going to have to do the same thing as we did previously. We're going to have to set our look back to 2, right, to extend, right, we're going to have to extend that reversal down in price. We're going to extend that forward another bar to where the crossover occurs. So, all right, so there's condition 2. So that's one way we can do it, right? One way. So we had to build 2 special solvers that had the output essentially reversed. So, and actually I meant to name this AND node. So this is condition 2. And let me give this crossover a name. So this is the stochastic crossing the 90, and I reversed the output there, like so. All right, so that's one way to build condition 2, where we manage to reverse the output so that it gives us a long, when in fact price and the stochastics are actually moving down, which would typically give us a short output. So let me show you another way to build condition 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a copy of the original closing price solver there. And this actually isn't a copy. This solver and this solver are one and the same, right? I just have a duplicate on the chart. So keep in mind that if I change this one, if I change the settings for this one, right? So let's take a look at this look back period. Right, look back period's 2 for this one up here. The look back period is 2 for this one down here. If I change that back to 1, it's also going to affect this one up here. So you see the look back got changed to 1 on this one up here. So keep in mind that these are one and the same. I just have a duplicate on the on the logic board there. So keep that in mind. All right, so great. So there's a standard inflection solver giving us a short output, and let me build, excuse me, another crossover here. So I'm going to build a Stochastics 90 crossover. So Stochastics 90 crossover. So I'll just put this together real quick. Change the periods. All right, set this to a fixed value, 90. And okay, great. So we have a cross down here that's short, and I'll set this to shorts only. All right, it's use an AND node, and let me just make sure that the inflection solver is giving us a two bar output, and it is. All right, so there we go. So there's our short output, which is, I guess normal. So now what we want to do is we want to reverse that output. There's two ways I can do this. I can use the inverter, or I can use the long-short modifier. It doesn't really matter which, but the long-short modifier is already set up to do that without having to change anything. So if I plug that in, connect that to the result, bingo, we can see the output is reversed for us automatically. So, because the long-short modifier is its default setting is to swap the outputs, right? So it swapped that short output for a long, and it would swap the long output for a short. And I'm gonna take this long name here and shorten it up like so, and bingo. So it just made the solver a little shorter in our system, right? So there we go. There was two ways of building condition 2. So whichever one you prefer, doesn't really matter. So let's see. I guess there is a subtle slight advantage in building it this way, because I wouldn't have to build an additional inflection solver. So it would using this way would use one less solver, so which might be helpful if you're really building a big system, right? So obviously the more solvers your system has, the bigger it gets, the more math, calculations that your processor has to do, in order to derive an output. So, so that might be of some concern. So, yeah, just to note that. All right. So we have condition 2, and so next we'll build condition 3, right? So obviously we're going to have the same components as condition 1. However, also we need to check for a higher low as well. So let's see. I think. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to piggyback on the solvers that are already used for condition 1 here. Actually, I guess I didn't need to move them that far away, but so if we look at condition 1, right, we can see that we already have a long output over here, but that's just great. But that's not including our higher low point that we're looking for. So let's build a solver that's going to detect this higher low point here. And let's see here. All right, so I'm just thinking how I'm going to do this here. All right, so see, because my swings, highs, lows indicator, because I set the strength, I set the strength up to 7, and what's happening when I do that is the indicator is actually detecting this high or low much later. Yeah, much later. So much later than I want. All right, so I think what I'm gonna try here is I can use this inflection solver. Actually, let's see. This inflection solver has a look back at 2. It's actually, I'm going to note that in the name of this solver here. So it has a look back at 2, because what I'm going to need to do is, let's see, I'm going to build another inflection solver here. Yes, okay. So this inflection solver is essentially it's going to be marking right when this reversal happens, and I'm going to use a comparison solver that, let's see, let me stretch this out here. So I'm going to be using a comparison solver and then looking back to, let's see here, I'm going to be looking back 1 bar. So I'm going to be looking back 1 bar and getting the, I guess, the low of the bar here. Looking back to get the low of the previous bar, and then making sure that the low of this previous bar is higher than the indicator plot, right? So we know that if the low of the bar is higher than our swing high-low plot, we know that a lower high was made, right? But only when we get this reversal bar, right? Only when we get this reversal bar. So that's why I'm having to use a inflection solver in combination with a comparison solver to actually know when we get this reversal bar here. So, all right, so let me build a comparison solver. All right, so we're going to be looking at the high and the low of the bar and comparing that to the swings high, low. Yeah. All right, so let's see. I'm going to set this to price, right? So we're going to be comparing the low of the bar to our swing line, and of course the opposite would be true for a short signal here. So yeah, I think this over here would also be an example for a short signal. So we would be comparing the high of the bar to the swing line, to the high swing point, to that high swing line. And making sure that the high is below it for a short trade, right, to kind of create the opposite trade setup. So, all right, so for a long signal, right? For the long output, we're going to be using the low price, right? So remember, we actually want a long output over here for condition 3, and so we're using the low price of the bar to, evaluate this long output that we're wanting. And then essentially the opposite is going to be true for getting a short output. We're going to be using the high of the bar, right? So if we were going to be, if we're looking for a short trade signal here, we're going to be using the high of the bar and comparing it to the swing price there, to that swing plot line. All right, so now we need to set up indicator B. We need to set that up to be looking at our swings high-low plot lines here, right? The magenta and the blue plot line. So let's set this indicator up. So there's our indicator, and I need to bump the sensitivity up to what I have on the chart, so that's set to 7. And so next we need to select the the appropriate plots that we're using. So the magenta line on the chart, that's actually the whitest bottoms. So we're going to use that to generate a long output, and the whitest tops is the blue line up on top here. So we're going to use that to generate a short signal. All right, and let me just make sure the outputs are set correctly, and I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah, so when we think about this, when the low price is greater, and when the low price, we want the low price to be greater or higher than our plot line here. So if we look at the output here, right, we want A. A is, for the long output, A is going to be the low price, and we want it to be greater than B, and B is our swing indicator plot. So the outputs are set correctly the way we want. And as we look at this, right, obviously the low price is higher than our indicator, pretty much everywhere, except here. So, right, we can see that the low of the bar, actually, as soon as it crosses below that magenta plot line, right, you can see our long output disappears now because price is no longer higher than the previous swing low point. Right. So we can see that in all this area we have a long output. So now hopefully that helps explain why we need this closing price inflection solver, because it just gives us it gives us this single bar here. So, and we're going to connect these two together with an AND node eventually. So, but first let me go back to the comparison solver, and so actually let me kind of back up here. Let's take a look at the inflection solver again, right? So you'll note that this long output happened one bar after this low point, right? So that's actually one bar back. So I need to actually set the comparison solver up to also be looking at the low price one bar back because of that. So I'm going to set the look back period to 2, and we're going to be using a look back processing of the single value, right? So we just want to look at just the value of that low price one bar back. And let's see. And also the same is for the swing indicator. You know, to be technically, I mean, we could use a displacement of 0, you know, because I mean, as I scroll through the chart, I can see that my, you know, my swing indicator really is not changing very quickly because this sensitivity is set so high. But to be technically correct, we do want to look back 1 bar on the swing high-low indicator as well. So to do that, I can set my displacement to 1, which essentially looks back 1 bar on the indicator. So, you know, things really haven't changed on this output, but if I scroll forward here, right, to where price crossed below that swing plot, we can see that we're still getting a long output right here on this 1 bar. So it kind of delayed, right? So it delayed this long output by 1 bar. I guess so. I guess looking at that just tells me that it's working correctly. All right. So the next step now is to connect these two together with an AND node, and hopefully we get the result that we're looking for. And yes, so good. So we did get a long signal right here on this reversal bar. And if we look at condition 2, right, we can see that it made a lower high, at least according to to the swing high-low plot. We got a short signal there. Now, look here on condition 1, right? This swing low, which actually was lower than our previous swing point, and there's no output there, right? So this didn't qualify for that condition 3, right? So there's our previous low point, right? So there's no signal here, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want, right? So we want to make sure that, you know, in our setup number 3, that we made a higher low swing point there. All right, so I'm going to name this AND node our. All right, so that's a higher low and a lower high. Right, swing point essentially. All right, so this, you know, this set of logic only defined our higher low swing point there, and originally I was thinking that I would have to join it together with condition 1, but actually I don't think I do, since it did require a. Actually, I'm sorry, I do, because remember this set of logic does not incorporate the stochastics. Right? It doesn't include the stochastics. So, all right, so I'm just going to taking a note here that, right, our higher low is happening right on this bar that I put the arrow on, but if I look at this other condition, right, it's this long output's happening 1 bar later. So I need a way to shift that forward. Let's see. Yeah, right. So remember one of the components of condition 3 is we have to we have to be looking for our stochastic to cross above the 10 level. So somehow I need to get this solver, included in this set of logic here. Now, if I just connect this in, you'll see that it kills the whole signal. And right, that's because the stochastic is happening 1 bar later. Right, you can see that the racing stripe happens 1 bar later. So let's see. Just kind of think of an easy way, or I'm trying to think of what would be a good way to do that. Yeah, okay. I think, all right, just for the sake of simplicity, what I'm going to use is this look back. So this look back can be used to shift a signal forward. Yeah. So actually, I need to take this AND node, right? So I'm getting the output here, and I need to shift it forward 1 bar onto the next bar forward, right? Which is where the stochastic crossover happens, right? The stochastic crossover happens 1 bar afterwards. So we're going to use this. Let's disconnect that. All right. Plug that in there. Plug that in. And oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I don't need to shift the stochastic crossover. I actually need to shift this higher low logic forward 1 bar. That's what I need to do. There we go. So let me move my arrow now right there onto that bar, and now let me take a look at my stochastic crossover, and we can see it's on the same bar here. There we go. That's what we want. Alright, so I'm going to just slide my solvers back a little bit. Now I can use another AND node. Connect these all together. And so there we go. That now makes up condition 3. Right, so it took me, it took 2 solvers to build the higher low condition, and then we're using the stochastic crossover solver that we already had for condition 1, and that is what built condition 3. All right, so let's see the next step. So we have condition 1, and we have condition 2 built, and now we have condition 3 built. So now we need to string them all together so that we actually get a output on this last bar here, right? This last bar where that actually gives us the trade signal. So, all right, so I think probably the best way to do this would be to use the toggle node. So we'll play around with this for a little bit. Yeah, all right, so yeah, so I'm going to use the toggle node so that when condition 1 is met, it's going to turn our toggle node on and extend the signal forward here. Yeah. Well, I'm just taking a moment and I'm kind of thinking if the toggle node or the signal extender. I'm trying to think which one might be easier. You know, it also kind of, I guess, just making the decision, you know, if you should use the toggle versus the signal extender, also kind of depends on you know what your trade setup is, what your trading system is. You know, my assumption would be, that, you know, the distance, the number of bars between condition 1 and condition 3 is probably not that great. Yeah, you know, in which case the signal extender would probably be a little easier to set up. But the drawback of using the signal extender is that it would only extend condition 1, it would only extend it forward for a fixed number of bars, right? So that's kind of the drawback to using the signal extender. Whereas the toggle node, you know, once you turn it on, right? In other words, I would use the toggle node to take condition 1, and I would turn, you know, the toggle node on. I would turn the long side of the toggle node on, and it would just stay on forever until I turned it back off. So that's beneficial when you don't know how many bars it's going to take. You know, particularly if it takes a long number of bars. So that's kind of the, you know, the pros and cons of each of these. So, you know, the toggle node might be a little more difficult to understand how to turn the toggle node off. I think it's probably easier to understand how to turn the signal extender off if you need to turn it off earlier than the number of bars you're going to extend the signal forward. So, all right, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the toggle node since it's a little more universal. All right, so the default setting for the toggle node is, you know, when a signal comes in, we're going to turn that state on, and then when an opposite signal comes in, it's going to force it off. Now, we can see that basically the toggle node was turned on a long time ago, way far back at the beginning of the chart is when that toggle node actually got turned on. Let me turn my scroll bars on. So if we turn all the way, there we go, yep. So all the way at the beginning of the chart, right, we got this reversal up. In other words, you know, essentially this kind of qualifies as condition 1, and it turned our toggle node on, and right, it just stayed on forever. So I have to figure out how to turn our toggle node off eventually. So right, so give me a moment to kind of think of what would be a good solution to turn this toggle node off. Well, actually, yeah, you know what? I think yeah, maybe the signal extender might be easier in this case. All right, yeah, let me fiddle around. Actually, instead, let me fiddle around with the signal extender. So, this kind of illustrates that, you're definitely not going to know, how to go about this exactly. You'll just have to do some experimenting, and kind of sometimes you just need to play around a little bit and find a solution that works well. And, so don't ever expect to kind of, know how to go into this and just do everything off the bat. Part of the beauty about, BloodHound is you can, easily just connect stuff together and take a look at the chart, right, and you get a feedback instantly. So you can play around until you find a solution very quickly. So let's see, if I extend the signal forward for 40 bars, that looks a little excessive. Maybe 25 bars, and that's not quite enough. All right, I guess 40 bars actually is needed. Yeah. Actually, let's just round it up to 50, just in case. So, all right. All right. In looking through this, I think I actually might have found something that might work as a good way to, reset the signal extender here. So I'm noticing that when our indicator plot, when our indicator plot shifts like this, and when the upper one shifts like that, that might be an indication that we need to turn, right, this long signal off. Right, so this long signal from condition 1 that's getting extended forward to condition 3. Yeah, I'm thinking that when the plot shifts like this, that actually might be the time to to turn this long state off. Yeah, all right. So I'm looking at the indicator here. I think this will probably work out well. So I think for the long state here, since so for condition 1, right, to extend this long state forward onto condition 3, I think what's going to work best is I'll use the high swing point plot, and when it shifts, when it changes, I'll use that to turn this long state off. And let's see. Well, let me just look through this chart here and see if that actually is appropriate. Yeah, I think so. All right. So I'm going to build a solver that detects when the swing high low plots change here, and I can use that. To turn off my signal extender here. So let's see. Yeah, an easy way to do that is I'm going to use the indicator comparison. All right. So essentially, we're going to be looking for a plot shift. All right. So indicator A, right? Both indicator A and indicator B are both going to be set to the swing high low, and so let me get those set up here. And remember to set the indicator settings correctly. So we're using a sensitivity of 7. And let's see. So I guess when the widest tops plot, when it shifts down, I'm going to generate a short signal. I don't think it really matters. Yeah, it doesn't matter if I generate a long signal or a short signal, but because the plot is, let's see, shifting down, let's see, well, yeah, I think since the plot is shifting down and the swing, let's see, the widest bottom plot here, the magenta, since it's shifting up, I'm going to generate a long signal when it shifts up. And so I think that's just going to be a little easier to understand. So let's see, the widest tops is going to generate a short signal. So the blue line is our widest tops. It's going to shift down. I'll have it generate a short signal. The widest bottoms is the magenta line, and when it shifts up, I'll have it generate a long signal. And I'm going to set indicator B to the same thing. All right, so I'm using the same plots, for the same long and short. Now, let's see, I need to displace one of these, right? So one of these is going to be the current bar, and then one of these I'm going to displace it so we're looking back at the previous bar. And that's what will detect that shift. And so let me just put one in there and see what that does for us. And yeah, there we go. That actually, that did it. So I think I could kind of change these displacements and no, actually that doesn't work. So let's put back there. All right. Okay, so in building this logic here, that's going to be a reset. So I've discovered I guess not an issue here, but an absence of a situation that might happen here. So so when the plot shifts up, I don't get a reset signal. So that might be problematic here. So, yeah. So let's see, what I can do is I think I can just use one of these other long outputs and the other short output there. There we go. Yep. So now we can see whenever the swing high, or the blue line, if it shifts down, I get a signal, and then over here if it shifts up, right? So it's shifting up, I get a signal. It shifted up, and I got a short signal there, and it just so happens that our swing low shifted up at the same time, so actually I got a long and a short out. Since the plot shifted, they both shifted at the same time. But yeah, but what's good about this is, right, when this plot line shifts up, or right, if the magenta line shifts down, I get a long signal out either way. Okay, so I think that is going to work great for basically turning off our signal extender. All right, so let's take a look at this signal extender here. Right, so we can see once again condition 1 happens, and our signal extender essentially turns on. Right, turns on for 40 bars. And what happened is, right, this is the same thing as condition 1 right here, where condition 3 is. And so that turned the signal extender on for another 40 bars. Right, so that's why we get this long continuous, long side output, is because right, if we take a look at the original condition 1 from the AND node, right, every time we get a long signal, we're going to be extending this long signal forward by 40 bars. So we can see that we're getting, these long, this condition 1's met, and so we just keep extending that signal forward for 40 bars. So as we look at this signal extender, it just kind of looks like it just goes on forever and ever. And so that's why. So now we'll use this comparison solver to actually turn off the signal extender. So think of the resets as essentially turning the function node off, right? The resets, their job is to turn the signal extension off, or in other words, reset the signal extender back to its default state, which is off. All right, so we're essentially, these are all resetting the signal extender to back off. All right, so let's take a look at the logic here. So our signal, actually, hold on. So, all right, so with the signal extender, without any resets, right, it's giving us a long output. Now, this solver I built that's going to be resetting it, we're going to be using a short signal to reset that long state. So, right, so this short, right, this short signal that we're getting, from our solver that's going to do the resetting, right, this short, it's opposite of the, of the long state that our signal extender is giving us, right? So that short that we got from this solver, is opposite of the long signal, that the long state that we're getting out of the solver. So when we reset this, let me zoom in here. Right, so we're connecting the solver into the reset here. So when we look at all of these reset options here, right? So all I did was I just clicked on the little plus box to open this up. Since we're using the reset input, we're only interested in the resets that start with the word reset, right? And we're actually using a reset opposite signal. So remember, we're getting a short signal, a short output out of this solver that's actually resetting the long state. So what we're going to be using is this reset opposite signal. So that's the one that we want to turn on. And we're actually not, we don't want to use the reset signal. Let's turn that off. And yeah, let's see. All right, so the shift in the indicator that's happening, it's actually going to be happening one bar too soon. Because remember, I've set this arrow here, which this arrow is actually gonna, it's actually gonna note. This arrow is actually when we want the final trade signal, right? This arrow here actually represents when our stochastic crossover happens, right? So this is actually where the final trade signal is going to happen. It's going to happen on this bar, but we can see that the swing indicator shifts down a little too soon. So we're actually turning the signal extender off a little too soon. So what I'm going to have to do is use a look back, and I'm going to shift, right? I need to take this reset signal and actually shift it. I need to shift it forward a couple of bars actually. So I'm actually going to shift it forward a couple of bars. We don't want it to be on the bar that we actually get the trade signal. We want it to reset the bar afterwards. So let's see. I'm just going to use a displacement of 2, and that should do it. Yeah. So now we can see, instead of the long signal actually happening on the shift of the plot, it's actually the output, right? The short output is now 2 bars forward, and it's a bar after we would actually get the signal here. It's 1 bar after. So let's take a look at that. And okay, so there we go. So there's kind of our ideal situation. So we have condition 1, where originally we had just 1 bar with an output, but now we have that output, right? So condition 1, the output for condition 1 has been basically extended forward until condition 3 can happen. So now we need to do the same thing for condition 2. We want to take the output from condition 2 and also extend it forward until condition 3 happens. All right, so let's see. Let's find condition 2 here. And I think essentially we can just kind of do the same thing again with this signal extender here. I think we'll just use another signal extender to extend condition 2 forward enough, like so. Yeah. All right. So we're going to be taking the signal, the output from condition 2, and extending it forward onto condition 3. So let's see. Let me. So I want to try and organize my nodes here a little cleaner. Let's see, how about excuse me. All right, I think that works. There we go. So now our reset logic here is right there in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'll grab a signal extender. Oops. Grab a signal extender. Connect that up. Connect that up. All right. So condition 1. Originally we extended it for 50 bars. You know, I imagine that condition 2 doesn't need 50 bars. I'll just kind of make an assumption, and we'll just say, you know, probably 40 bars is plenty for that. Probably less, probably half that. I imagine 20 bars is plenty for that. So because remember, condition 2, essentially we're just looking for a downtrend in the bars and then a reversal. So, you know, however many bars this downtrend, you know, needs, and I imagine if this thing goes on, you know, for more than 20 bars, it's probably going to make a lower low, not a lower high. But if we do the math, since condition 1 is set to 50, all right, so if we get 25 bars up and then 25 bars down, I think we would end up with a double bottom, which actually wouldn't qualify, right? It needs to be a higher low, not an exact double bottom. So just to be sure, I'll actually set this to 25 bars, which is half of what condition 1's signal extender is set to 50 bars. So if 50 bars is enough, then 25 bars for condition 2 is going to be plenty. So if price kept moving down, for 26 bars, then essentially price made a lower low. That's because we're using, I know that because we're using these, the Renko bars here, and these Renko bars are evenly spaced. So, the same number of bar moves up, if that has the same number of bars moving down, then we get an exact double bottom. And of course, if we have more bars moving down, then we made a new low than what moved up. So, just some simple math there. So I'll set that to 25, and that'll definitely be plenty. And let's see, so let's take a look here. All right, so we have condition 2 happened, and we extended forward for 25 bars, and we may not even really need to turn this off to reset this signal extender, but it's probably just a good idea. So I'm going to plug my reset logic right into this signal extender here, and let me go through and set my resets up. So remember, we turned this one off, and the reset opposite signal is the one that we're using, so we wanted to turn that on. So I set the resets right for this signal extender. They need to match this one here. Right, so this reset opposite signals is the only one set to true. So I just set this other signal extender to the same thing. All right, let's take a look. And all right, so our condition 2 has now been extended forward until condition 3 actually triggers, actually fires off. Now, all right, so we have the, let's see, yeah, so we have condition 1, and we have condition 2, and we have condition 3. So now that we have, right, now that we have all 3 conditions extended forward to the bar that actually provides the trade signal, now we can connect all this together with an AND node. All right, so let's take a look at condition 2. So there's condition 2 extended forward to our trade setup, and then of course condition 3 actually provides the trade signal. Right. So as you're building your logic here, really condition 3 is really actually what provides the trade signal, right? The final trade setup or the trade signal. And condition 1 and, essentially condition 1 and condition 2, right? Those are just requirements or filters in a way, right? So you wouldn't take, you wouldn't take every condition 3. You only take it when you get these, these trade filters, right? So condition 1 and condition 2 are really kind of trade filters. So, just a little explanation about, kind of how to break down your trade setups. So now with this final AND node, there we go. There is our trade signal. All right, so that's it for the long side. Let me kind of scroll back through the chart and see if we get anything else that qualifies. Yes, actually, I think we should be getting a signal here as well. Yeah, because, let's see. Yeah, we got condition 1, and we have condition 2, and we just barely got condition 3, but it did happen. All right, so I'm going to take a look through the logic and find out why we didn't get a signal here. So we'll debug this for a moment and see what's going on. So let's take a look at condition 1. Yep, so good. We got some outputs there for condition 1. Let's take a look at condition 2. All right, condition 2 happened here. Let's take a look at it from the swap. There we go. Condition 2 happened here. Now let's take a look at condition 3. And interesting, so condition 3 didn't fire off. So, all right. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to look at, each of these solvers and find out, find out why we're not getting an output here. So let's see, let's take a look at our comparison solver. All right. So that's good. So whenever the low price of the bar is above our swing high, we're getting this along output. So that's working correctly. Oh, all right, interesting. So here's something I overlooked. Right, so this should be the reversal of the close price, right? This inflects, but it actually was still set to the SMA. So let's correct that. Set it to price, to the closing price. There we go. All right, great. There we go. So that fixed that. And now let's take a look at this. So all right, so now as we take a look at condition 3, great. There's our condition 3 happening. So it's surprising that we actually got a trade signal, previously on the chart with that solver set wrong. But all right, let's take a look at the final output here, and there we go. So there's our long signal, and we'll take a look back and see if there's any more. So our stochastics didn't get down far enough here. And great, yep, so we did get along here, right? So we got a higher low by 1 tick, so that qualified. But over here it actually made a lower low, so there was no signal there. And let's see if we're getting anything here. So our stochastic basically didn't get down below the 10 in all these in all these price reversals here. So it looks like this did a pretty good job of filtering out the chop here. All right. All right, so here's an interesting discovery. Let's take a look at this. And all right, let me change something on the indicator here so that my chart scales up better. Let's see, let's turn the auto scale off. There we go. Okay, much better. All right. All right, so let's take a look here. So all right, so let's see, all right, so we have condition 1, condition 2, and condition 3 on our stochastics. And yep, and we got condition 3 here. So this looks like it should be, like we should get, this is a valid trade setup here. However, we don't have a signal here. And now I can see the reason why is, look, all right, this indicator plot that we were using for the reset actually happened a little sooner than expected because a higher high was made. So right, our blue plot shifted up, and I'm certain that would have turned off the signal extenders. So let's take a look at the signal extender for condition 1. Right, so we have condition 1 plugged in here, and oh, look at this. So yeah, so our blue plot line, right, our swing high is shifted down, and so condition 1 essentially happened for 1 bar, and then the signal extender got reset. All right, so it looks like we might have to rethink this a little bit. All right, so well, I'll just try a simple little experiment here, and instead of using the swing high, I'm going to use the swing low, and maybe the swing low will work better instead of using the swing high. So, look at this. Let's take a look at this solver here. That's right. So this solver is what's doing our resetting, right? So that's right. This point is what's getting plugged into the resets of the signal. So so let's see. So right now, right, when the swing high blue line plot shifts, we're getting a short output. So instead of using the short output, how about if we use the long output? We'll use this long output over here when the swing lows shift. When that swing low plot shifts, we'll use the long output here to reset the signal extenders instead. So what I need to do is we'll take a look. Let me connect the signal reset up first so we can actually see this. Let's shift this forward a little bit. All right. So let's pay attention to condition 1 here, and let's take a look at the resets. And so instead of using the reset opposite signal, right, we're going to turn that off. We're actually going to use the reset signal, right? So the signal extender, right, it's extending a long output or a long signal, And so reset signal would be a long signal coming into the reset, right? So a long coming in to reset a long would just be, the same signal. It's not the opposite, so it's going to be the signal. So we'll use this guy. And see what happens there. Oh, and let's see. Yeah, since we're using the opposite swing plot here, I don't think we need to use this look back anymore. I don't think we need to shift the signal forward. Let's disconnect those and try this real quick. All right, so that seems to be working good so far, right? So remember, we're taking, what we're looking at is condition 1 and making sure it gets extended forward enough onto condition 3. So that seems to be working for this area here. So let me scroll back through the chart and look at the other areas here. Yep. All right. So I think this looks like a. All right. This looks like a valid trade setup right there, and we did get condition 1 extended forward onto condition 3. So far so good. All right, here was our other trade setup, and condition 1 got extended forward, so that looks good so far. And here's the original area we were building the signal on. And it didn't work here. Yeah, it didn't work for that one. Shoot. Darn. All right. Yeah, so we can see that sometimes the swing low, right, will shift down, right as our condition 1 happens. So let's see if, yeah, you know what? I can think of an easy trick to do right off the bat. So what I'll do, remember we were using this look back to kind of shift, right, a signal forward a couple bars. So how about if I use that for condition 1? I'll take condition 1 and plug it in here. Let's take a look at that. Yeah. All right, so now condition 1, I took that and I shifted it forward a couple of bars so that we actually get the signal after, right, after our swing high-low plot does its little change, right? So condition 1, we're actually getting a signal after the reset, right, after the reset happens. So let's plug that in there. And now let's take a look. All right, so I took the output from condition 1 and I delayed it by a couple of bars so that the output from condition 1 happens after the plot shifts down. Right, so condition 1, we get our output after the reset happens. And so now that's working for this area here. And let's just go back here All right, great. It's working for this area here where we have another trade signal. Let me scroll forward on the chart and see if there's another area that might qualify. Oh yeah. So all right, there's condition 2 and condition 3, and great. So condition 1 got extended forward onto condition 3. So far so good. All right. Yeah. So this really actually turned out to be a far better example than I originally had imagined. So, I like to every once in a while kind of walk you through the thought process, of kind of tweaking things to get the system built. Sometimes things aren't as straightforward as we'd like. So sometimes we have to kind of experiment and try various things. So let's see where. Trying to find that spot we were working on earlier. I might have scrolled past it. Okay, give me a moment here. All right, so that's good. Here's our original place that we were working. All right, there's a second trade setup there. All right, that was an extra one that I found. And oh, here we go. Here's where it was. Okay. All right. Yeah. So essentially, just to kind of summarize, what I found was that, I originally built condition 1, pretty simple. And then in trying to find a way to reset, the signal extenders, what I discovered was that I kind of had to, modify the signal output from condition 1 to accommodate, basically to accommodate the indicator behavior, to accommodate the swing high-low indicator behavior that we're using to, reset the signal extenders. So that's kind of the roundabout process that I had to work through. All right, so looks like I've solved all the situations for extending condition 1 forward. So now let's take a look. Let's scroll out here. Now let's take a look at condition 2 and make sure condition 2 is getting extended forward. All right, so there's condition 2. That's
getting extended forward. So that looks good. All right, so we'll take another look through the chart and see what we get here. All right, so we do get our trade signal there. All right. So that's working good. Right, I don't think that our stochastic doesn't get low enough here to get a long signal. And there we go. There's our long signal there for this setup here. All right, so let's see what's happening here. Yeah.
right, so I think we should be getting a trade signal here. So let's find out what's going on here. All right, so once again, I'll look at condition 1. All right, so we have a long output that's going to happen on the signal bar. Let's take a look at, here we go. So condition 2, oh, look at this. So I notice here, look at this, right? So look at the signal extending for condition 2. You notice it reset when our swing highs shifted down, right? So what happened was I forgot to change the resets for our signal extender. So remember, we're no longer using the reset opposite signal. So I'll set that to false. We're actually using the reset signal. Set that to true. All right, there we go. Yeah. So now that extended signal turns off when our swing low or our magenta line does the shift. Okay, so now, and there we go. There's our trade signal there. All right, and let me just scroll back, and okay, so yeah, so we have our trade signal here on this one, and we still have our trade signal on this one back here. So far, so good. All right, and we got that one as well. And let's keep scrolling forward. I think I found another one further on, and hey, we got this one as well. All right, this is really looking like it's starting to take place. And look, we found another one here. All right, great. So we even found another trade signal there, and yeah, that looks correct to me. So we got our stochastics in the 3 areas, and price made a higher low. That's good. And another one. All right. Good. I think. All right. So that accomplished it for all the long trade setups. Now, you probably noticed that there's absolutely no short trade signals coming out of this. So now we can go back and kind of take a look at that and get the short trades working here. So let's see. Let me find. Let's see. Actually, yeah, right back here. While I move my little drawing aids over. All right, so for a short signal, right, we have condition 1, condition 2, and then condition 3 with a lower high. So condition 3 requires a lower high. All right, so let's we'll take a look at these. So let's take a look at condition 1, and of course, the way I built condition 1. It was actually pretty, it was designed so that, let's see, yeah, condition 1, because we're using crossovers, I didn't build a crossover that, I didn't build a crossover for condition 1 that looks at the stochastic crossing down of the 90 there, right? So
Oop. So I'm missing a crossover solver here. Is really what's happening. So let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to add another crossover to this. Simple enough. So, right. So let's take a look. We're actually going to take a look at that crossover there. Right. So we only have crossovers for crossing above 10. So I'll build a crossover to cross below the 90. That's kind of the missing component here for the short trades. So let's grab that crossover. And all right, so we're looking for the crossover to cross the 90 value, the 90 threshold. All right. And let's set our indicator B to a fixed value of 90, like so. All right, and we're only interested when the stochastic crosses down below 90. So let's eliminate when it crosses above that 90. Let's eliminate that. So we're only interested in the shorts, right? When the stochastic crosses below 90 for the short. Okay, so now the next thing is to join both of these crossovers with an OR node. So both of those crossovers are plugged into an OR node. So now let's take a look at that output, right? So now we're seeing the crossovers that we're interested in, right? We're only interested in these particular crossovers. So now, if we take a look at condition 1, let me zoom in here a little bit. All right, so we're looking at condition 1, and as soon as I connect that crossover, there we go. All right, so all right, so this would be condition 1 for a long trade setup, and this would be condition 1 for a short trade setup. All right, so I think so far so good. And so now let's take a look at condition 2 here. All right, so for the short trade setup, this is condition 1. I'm sorry, condition 2. All right, so we got condition 1 working here for the short setup. So now we need to get condition 2 working. All right, so let's take a look at condition 2 here. Right, so for the short side, right, we have no output here on condition 2, right? And you probably noticed, well, that's because we only have one crossover solver there. So if we take a look at that crossover solver, right, we're looking at that guy, right? So for the short trade setups, right, it's not giving us our cross above 90 here. So how about if we do this? So I think all I need to do is just disconnect this single crossover solver, and we'll plug this into here, into the condition 2 AND node, and we're taking a look at this condition 2 AND node, and all right, so there, so there's our condition 2, and we do have a signal right there, but it's in the wrong direction, and it should be. Right? Remember, we're looking at the short trade setups right now. So we need this condition 2 to be a short output, and that, remember, that's what we had this swap or this this long short modifier node here to swap the outputs. So let's actually take a look at that. And so there we go. So now this condition 2 is giving us a short output. And so far so good. Alright, so keep in mind, I think that right there, that bar right there is where we want the actual short trade signal. So let's just take a look at the AND node and see if we got it yet. Nope, not yet. Alright, so the long trade is still working. So that's good, right? Our long trade signal is still working. We don't have a short one yet, so let's kind of find out what's going on. So I'm going to take a look at condition 1 first. So let's take a look at the signal extender. And yeah, so this is condition 1, and our signal extender got turned off. Yeah, so remember, this is the guy that's resetting our signal extender. And if you take a look here, right, we got a short output here when the swing high shifts down, right? So this short output is what's resetting our condition 1 signal moving forward. All right, well, that was unexpected. So it looks like we need to find another solution to turn off, resetting or turning off our signal extenders. All right, so I'm just thinking about this for a moment, see if I can come up with another solution for turning off those signal extenders. Yeah, maybe I can use, you know, the stochastic here. Yeah, so hopefully you guys see that if we're going to use the stochastic here, actually, yeah, let me switch back to building this long signal here, right? So, oops. So if we switch back to looking at the long signal, so we have, yeah, okay, so we are actually looking at the signal extender for condition 1 still, right? So we're getting a long output here, right? We're getting this long output and extending it forward until condition 3 happens. And obviously if I use the stochastic, you know, crossing above 90 to turn off the signal extender, you know, it's going to turn off too soon. So my thought was that the actual reset would require condition 2. Well, actually, it would require condition 2 and the stochastic crossing above 90 as well. So I'm going to have to build, so this is going to take a little more complex, you know, reset logic to do this, but let's build it and see if that works. All right, I'm just gonna set this guy off to the side for now, and let's see. All right, so I'm going to build. Let's see. I'm going to build another set of crossover solvers, just like I did here. But it's going to be kind of the opposite. It's going to be a little opposite, because instead of looking for the stochastic to cross above 90, I'm actually going to be interested when the stochastic crosses below 90, or I'm sorry, below 10 and crosses above 90. Right, so I'm actually looking for, let me get that. So I'm looking for these crossovers on my stochastic as a part of my reset, you know, logic. So I'm going to have to build a different set of crossover solvers. So let's see, let me take this guy that I'm no longer using, and I will modify his use. Yeah, all right. So there we go. I got, right, a crossover when they're crossing below 90. So let's add another crossover to complement this when we're crossing the 90. So I'm just going to go through and set the solver up quickly. So, sorry, not 10. We want it to be 90. There we go. Okay. And we're only interested when it crosses above 90, so I need to get rid of those short signals. So let's set the evaluate to the long only. Yeah, there we go. Grab an OR node. So just like we did previously. Okay. Great. So now we're getting crossover signals where the squares are. So that's the crossover of the stochastic. Now I need to combine it with condition 2. Right? Because remember, I don't want to reset, you know, right after condition 1 happens. I don't want this to reset right after condition 1. Right? I want the reset here to happen after condition 2 happens. Right? So remember, condition 2. So alright, I'm going to have to spread this logic apart, make a little room. There we go. Alright, so I can see here we're getting a long signal on this stochastic crossover. So for condition 2, so for condition 2, I also need a long output there. So yep, and condition 2 is giving me is giving me that long output. Now I can't actually just take this signal extender, plug it into the AND node, and plug it in here. I mean, I can do this so far, but watch what happens if I take this AND node and try and plug it in there. See how it just disappears? Right? It actually won't let you do that because it created a circular it created a circular logic here. Right? The output of our signal extender went into the AND node, which then fed back into the reset. So it created a circular logic there, which would just put you in an infinite loop. So we can't actually do that. So what I need to do is, let's see, I think I can just grab another signal extender, like so. And so I'm going to set this signal extender up the same way as I set my other one up. And so we want to, let's see, we're not, let's see, I don't think we're going to be using the reset input, but I'm going to set it up the same way anyways. So that's already set to true, that's set to 25. All right, so both of these signal extenders are set up the same. Okay, so this AND node is giving us our reset. Let's take a look at the chart. Yeah, so
So far this is looking good, right? So we have a reset signal on this crossover, right? But we don't have one here, right? So there's one missing after condition 2. After condition 1 there's no reset, but after condition 2 we have a reset. And look, same for this short trade here. So we have this reset here. So remember, this is actually condition 2 for the short signal here, and we have a reset here. So far so good. All right, so let me take a look at condition 1. Take a look at the signal extender. And let's connect this reset into the signal extender reset. So here's condition 1. Our long signal is turned on and it's extending forward until we get to condition 3, and then it turns off when our stochastic reset happens. So condition 1 looks good so far. Let's take a look at the signal extender for condition 2. And I also need to plug this into that reset there. So, interesting. All right, it's not letting me connect that up. And oh, oops, yeah, I need to disconnect that later. There we go. Yep. I needed to disconnect that later. I only need to use the signal extender, this one here. So now let's take a look. All right, there we go. Now I can connect that up. All right, so this is condition 2 for the long signal. All right, condition 2 for the long signal. And so we get the long, that long condition 2, right, signal turned on, and it's extending forward until condition 3 happens. And then it turns off with our stochastic reset. All right, so far, so good. Let's go ahead and take a look at that and see what we get. And we still have our long signal, but we're absent the short signal. So let me go back and take a look at all this again. So now I'm going to focus on the short, right, on the short signals here, the short outputs. All right, so I can see I do have a short output here. And remember, I'm taking a look at the signal extender from condition 1. Okay, signal extender from condition 1. And the signal extender is taking condition 1 for the short side, for the short trade, shifting it forward enough until we get to condition 3. All right, so let's take a look at condition 2. And all right, so this is condition 2 for the short trade, and I can see I have a short output down here, and it is extending far enough until we actually get to where the short trade would be. So that looks good. So maybe something happened with condition 3. Let's take a look here. Oh, there we go. And, oh, here we go. Look, I didn't, so you see we only have one crossover plugged into condition 3 here. So that's where this, the leader from the OR node didn't get connected yet. So let's take the OR node, plug that in. There we go. So there is our short output for condition 3. Yep, all right. Yeah, so remember we had to use the OR node from these two crossovers, to get us both long and short trade signals, into each of the condition 1, 2, and 3. So, all right, so, I'm going to take a moment just to clean up how these leaders look. So I kind of like it when it looks a little cleaner. So what I can do is, you see how these leaders are crossing. So if you like a nice clean look, I can just disconnect that and connect it back. There we go. Get a little cleaner look like that. All right, same thing here. I can disconnect that, connect that in. Get a little cleaner look there. A little easier to follow those leaders when it's set up like that. All right, now let's take a look at the final signal output here. And all right, so we do have a signal here. And looks like we got an additional short signal right there. So let's take a look. Yep. All right, so our stochastic got above 90, and we had a high was made, and then we had a low point was made, and our stochastic was below 10, and then we had a lower high was made here, and once again our stochastic was above 90. So yep, that looks like that qualifies for a short signal. All right, so let's take a look at the chart again and just kind of double check, see if everything looks good. So yeah, this short signal looks good here, right? Stochastic above 90, below 10, and above 90, and we made a lower high, so that looks good. Same thing here, a lower high was made. Our stochastics, made it into the above 90 and below 10. See this long signal here? Looks good. Stochastic is below 10. It went above 90, and then when it went below 10 again, looks good. The short trade, all right? We're above 90, below 10 there, and above 90 there. Yeah, and it made a lower high. Right, this long trade, it made a higher low. Let's see, yep. Yeah, we already verified this one, so that's good. Alright. And this didn't qualify for a short signal because we had a previous swing high right there, which our stochastic didn't get up high enough. So that looks good. Let's see, you know what? Technically, I think that qualifies. That looks like that should be a short trade right there. Yeah. All right. So let me investigate this guy here and see what's going on. All right, so I'm going to start with condition 1 and make sure that the short output from condition 1, it has extended forward enough. All right, I think right there is where we should get our short signal. All right, so I can see I got 2 bars here with a short signal, and then it got turned off. It got reset. So, yeah. So the reset it too soon. So I need to take a look at the reset logic here. And yep. So there we go. So this short output, right, is going to reset the signal extender. So, all right. So, I can see. Let's see. Yeah. So this logic I used for the reset isn't working as expected. Yeah. So I can see that. All right. So we have. Let me take a look. That's right. So okay. So condition 2. So for for the short signal, remember condition 2 is making a low point here. That's condition 2 for a short trade. Makes that low point, then we get a high point, and then we get the short signal. So if I look back here, right, we had this low swing made, and it turned the signal extender on for our reset, and it just stayed on, and the reason why is because the signal extender, it's just extending for 25 signals, and there's nothing there's nothing turning it off, right? There's nothing connected to the reset, so it's not getting turned off soon enough. So I kind of have to rethink this again. This one's definitely turning out to be a tricky one. right. Yeah. So okay, I'm going to try another set of logic here that I kind of thought of earlier. And so I guess I'll bring it back here. So let me find. Okay, here we go. Here's a good spot to, I guess, explain this another set of reset logic. Okay, gonna have to move some solvers around here, so let me disconnect some things. All right, just move that out of the way for now. All right, so let's get back to the chart here. Okay, so if we're looking at a long setup, right here, so this is condition 3 for a long setup. So if a trade's successful, we actually get a condition 3, right? We get a signal on condition 3. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at condition 3 here. There we go. Okay, so all right, so this output that we're seeing on the chart are successful condition 3s. So we could use condition 3 to turn off the signal extenders, but you know what happens if condition 3 doesn't succeed, right, and it fails? We would need another situation to reset the signal extenders, to turn them off. And so something else I spotted was, well, if we get a failure, right, so yeah, so if we look at, looking at the long trade setups, right, this could be condition 1, and right, this can be condition 2, but we never got a condition 3, right, because price moved below, right? Price basically crossed below our previous low point, right? So we didn't get a higher low because price crossed below it. So we got a failed condition 3 right here. And I'm noticing that, what happened in this failed condition 3 is price, crossed over that low point, or it crossed over our plot, right? It crossed that magenta plot. So we had this crossover condition that was a failed condition 3. And so using, a successful condition 3 and a failed condition 3, I think combining those two together might create a set of logic that could be used to reset the signal extenders. So I'm going to look through the chart first and see if that kind of works out before I actually build it. So let's see. I need to find some of those other trade setups. Well, okay, let's go back. All right, so we had a successful condition 3, no failures. I need to, so that would turn the signal extenders off, the successful condition 3. I'm looking at this area over here. So price did, cross below, and we had a failure, but let's see. But at the same time, we didn't have that stochastic didn't get down below 10. So that's probably not a good area. Oh, okay. Here we go. Yeah. So here's here's another failed setup right here. All right. So we have a condition 1. We do have a condition 1 and condition 2. And a failed condition 3, and that could turn off the signal extenders. So, all right. So let me try that. Let's try that as our reset situation. All right. So our reset is 2 different conditions, right? It's going to be a let me scroll back to the chart here. Yeah, here's a good example. Okay, so our reset condition is going to be either a successful condition 3 or a failed failed condition 3 there. All right, so this would be a good area to kind of work in here. All right, so since we're combining essentially 2 separate conditions, we need to combine them into one kind of output, one signal. So I'm going to be using an OR node to do that. So I'm just simply going to take, let's see, yeah, let's see, I'm going to take condition 3. So remember, we're actually looking at condition 3 right now. So, right, condition 3, actually the trade signal happens on a successful condition 3. So we don't want to reset, we don't want to turn off condition 1 and condition 2 signal extenders, too soon. So I'm going to need to delay. I'm going to need another delay here. So I'll take condition 3, plug it in to this look back, which is going to delay the signal by 1. We'll take a look at that. All right. Okay. So there we go. So there's a successful condition 3, and it's delayed by 1 bar, right? So that'll turn off the signal extenders 1 bar later. All right. So now I need to build this crossover solver here that identifies, right, a failed setup. And that's going to take 2 crossover solvers because I'm looking for, the low price of the bar. Actually, I'm looking for the close of the bar to either cross the magenta plot, which takes a solver, or I'm looking for the closing price to cross the blue plot. So that's going to take another crossover solver. So we're going to basically kind of build another set of crossover logic, kind of similar to what we had done previously here. So actually, you know what? I'll just take these guys and repurpose them. Yeah. All right, so this OR node is going to be our new reset logic. And you know, you can rename all of these nodes here. So I can take that look back node and I can rename it to, you know, to what it's actually doing. So this is a one bar delay. So that's what it's actually doing. All right, and actually, you know what? An OR node going into an OR node is really kind of unnecessary. It's a little overkill. So I actually don't need that OR node. I can just take each of these crossovers and plug it in to this same OR node here. All right. So connect that in, connect that in, connect that in, and here actually I'll give this a more thorough name. So this is condition number 3. There we go, and it's a 1 bar. Actually here. There we go. All right, so that's a 1 bar delay of condition number 3, and then we have these other crossovers. So let me set these crossovers up. All right, so we're going to be looking at the closing price, and actually, you know what? Yeah. Actually, I think I do only need one crossover. Move that guy out of the way. Alright, so we're using the closing price, and we're looking for it to cross our swing high-low plots, right? We're looking for it to cross our swing low or our swing high plot. So let's change indicator B to use an indicator, and now we can set our swing high-low indicator here. All right, set up the settings correctly, and let's see. So when price crosses below the widest bottom, we'll generate a short signal, and yeah, well, let's see. Yeah, that's going to work. So right when price crosses below our magenta line, right, that's a cross down, so that's going to be a short signal. And then when price crosses above the blue line, right, that's a cross up, so that's our widest top, so that's a long cross up. And I think, yeah. And what I need to do is, well, let's take a look at the chart, right? So let me explain my thinking. So I'm going to change the crossover solver's output, and the reason why is because, remember, condition 3, a successful condition 3 is giving us a long output, right? So we're going to have to use this long output to turn off the signal extenders when the signal extenders are holding on to a long condition number 1 and a long condition number 2. So long condition number 3 is our reset and is giving us a long output. So I want this failed condition 3 to also give us a long output as well. All right, so we're using the same long output to reset our signal extenders. So I'm looking at the crossover solver, and I'm going to use crosses against direction output here. And oh, hold on, I actually need both. Let's set the evaluate to both, and that's not what I expected. Okay, that's actually not what I want. I want to yeah, what I want to do is I just want to swap this short crossover for a long crossover. So since changing the outputs didn't work, didn't give me exactly what I wanted, I will use, I'll grab this long short modifier here, and that's going to give me what I want. Right, so here we go. So here's our failed condition 3. It crosses down, but we actually got a long output from it. All right, so let's change the name there. All right, disconnect that. Connect that OR node in, connect that guy in. Okay. And I'll clean up these leaders here. There we go. All right. So now let's take a look at this. So this is our reset signals. All right. So we got a reset. So we're going to reset those signal extenders when we get a successful condition 3, or if we get a failed condition 3. Right, we're getting a long output to reset those signal extenders. Okay, so now let's plug this new reset logic back into our signal extenders, and our signal extenders are still using the reset signal. This one's still using the reset signal. All right. So I think that is complete. I think that does it. So we'll take a look at the final output here. All right, good. So we do have our long signal there. That looks good. And great. So, okay, back here to where we originally were. Yeah, so we got a short signal there. Right, so we got condition 1, condition 2, condition 3 for a short trade. And we got a short signal. All right, so we got condition 1, condition 2, and condition 3 for a long trade setup, and we got a long signal. Good, so we got condition 1, condition 2, and then condition 3 for another short trade. Yep. And yep, so we made a lower high, a higher low, and another lower high. All right. So far, so good. And all right, so here's condition 1. Condition 2.
We got a higher low for a long signal here, condition 3, right? Yep, condition 1, condition 2, condition 3 for a short trade. Yep, our stochastics are all good. All right, we still have our long signal there. That's good. All right, and let's see. Yeah, all right, so condition 1 for a short, our stochastic is good. We got condition 2, and then condition 3, a lower high for a short, and this long signal looks good. Yep, our stochastics are in the correct spots. We got a higher low. All right, looks good. Yep, same with this short. Our stochastics looks good, and we made a lower high. All right, looks like another good short. Okay, I think that finally did it. All right, so yeah, so I hope this may have seemed to have taken a while, but I hope you realize that in the grand scheme of things, we actually built this very fast and very rapidly. If you were to hire a programmer to do this, they could probably spend at least a couple. If they're a really good programmer, they probably spend a couple of days to do this. They wouldn't be getting this done within 3 hours like we did, right? And also, I took the time to explain it to you, which means it took me double the time that it would have taken me, because I took the time to explain this to you and walk you through it. So actually, this probably would have taken me no more than an hour and a half to build this. So, even though this did take up the workshop, but still, we walked through, various reset conditions, to finally find something that works, and we were able to get it done, within 3 hours and get it working. So I hope you don't let this discourage you. I hope you really see the big benefits of this versus hiring a programmer to do it for you. Which programmer would charge you for a couple of days worth of work at least to build something like this. And also, taking on a complex question like this. Actually, I didn't think this was going to be that complex. I thought it was going to be easy, but I guess the benefits of something like this is, you got to watch me walk through, the various problems that we're having and basically work through all the logic, that was kind of needed. So, we tested various reset logics, and just seeing the bigger picture of walking through getting something built. I hope that kind of helps you, broaden your understanding, when you're looking at putting together a system. So, all right, so now I'm just going to go through and delete these unnecessary solvers here. Okay, so Terry's asking, can you show how to get a trigger from a second closing bar crossing a moving average? All right, so this ought to be pretty simple. All right, so let's get a moving average on here. All right, let's get a 14. So I'll just throw a 14 period SMA on the chart, and all right, looks good.
Okay, I'm going to start a new logic template for this question. Alright, so we're interested in the second bar after a crossover. So I use XO to kind of shorten the names. Alright. Alright, so let's mark on the chart here. So this is the first bar of the crossover. And right, so we want to signal there, and we want to signal there. Okay, so we have some, all right, so we can see on the chart, all right, I've got those marked. So let's throw a crossover on here. Okay, so we're using the close price to cross the SMA 14. Alright, so we're going to set indicator A to the closing price of the bar. Right, so the close is already set by default. And great, actually the solver is set to our SMA 14 by default. Right, so there's the crossover on the original bar, but we need to actually shift it onto the second bar here. So let's see. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to look back to the previous bar. So so let's just say, right, the bar here on the far left, right, that's our second bar. So what we really want to do is we want to look back to the previous price, right? So we want to look back to the previous closing price and see if that is actually what crossed that SMA. So I think we just need to change this look back to 2, and we're going to use the single value because we only want the single closing price value of that bar, right? And just a moment while I turn my Skype off here. And, okay. Yeah, so that's all that was needed there. All right, Terry, so let me show that to you again. All right, so all I had to do is I had to use this look back, which essentially, right, when we got to the second bar after the crossover, we looked back one bar to look at that closing price and to see if that closing price crossed. Right, so that's what this look back period does, is it allows you to get the price of previous bars that have already passed, right? Historical bars, older bars. So, okay, yeah, that was a nice simple one I could get done real quick. Okay, so we're in. The question is, interested in when, right, the DIs are diverging. All right, so that, for example, those areas there. All right. So the first thing that we want to know is, I'm making some assumptions here. So the first thing we're going to want to know is, which one's on top. Is the DI minus on top, which means we're basically in a downtrend, right? The instrument is moving down, right? So we're so let's see if I can. There we go. right, as opposed to over here, where those DIs are diverging, but that's in more of a long situation. And all right, I'll just use blue. All right, so I'm gonna make an assumption here. Right. So these squares are marking, right, the areas where the DIs are diverging, but they're also telling us kind of the direction of the DIs as well, right? So we'll find these spots here. All right, so we're looking for the DM, DI, DI, diverging. It's not a divergence, it's diverging. So it's subtle difference in the word, but a huge difference in the definition. All right. So we're just diverging means we're just looking for the DIs to be separating apart. All right. So the first thing that we want to know is, what is the trend direction? So we're going to take a look at the the DI direction. And to do that, we'll simply see if the DI plus is above the DI minus, or if it's the other way around. So we'll go to our DM indicator, and there we go. And I'm going to use the DI plus. As for indicator A, we'll use the DI plus for indicator A. Right down here in indicator B, I'll set that to the DI minus. So let's grab our DM plot, and now we'll select the DI minus. Okay, so there. Now we can see, right, the trend direction, basically, like so. Okay, so now that we know the trend direction from the DI plots, now we need to get rid of the areas where excuse me, where the DI plots are converging. So when they're converging, we want to eliminate those areas so that we only are left with the DI divergence. So what I'm going to do is, let's try a simple solution here, is we're going to use the slope indicator. Right, so this is going to be the DI plus, the plus slope. Actually, yeah. So we're going to use the DI plus to find when it's sloping up, right? So when it's sloping up, we're going to get a long output. And if the DI minus is sloping down, we're going to get a short output. All right, so look, you'll notice that, so looky here. So our DI plus is on top, right? So we're in an uptrend,
However, if we look at our the blue plot line, it actually is sloping down, so it's converging with the DI minus. And if you look at BloodHound's output, look, the long side, the long output is missing when the indicator, when the plot is sloping down, right? Our long output is missing here. So I think we can just use an AND node now, like so. Yeah, all right. Okay, so let's kind of break this down a little bit so you get a better understanding of what the AND node is doing. So, right, when you look at the slope indicator, right, it looks a little confusing because we're getting a long and a short output, right? But you'll notice that this short output here actually gets filtered out when we use the AND node, right? So you see how you can see down here, right, the short signals got filtered out from the slope solver. And the reason why is because we used an AND node. So if we look at, once again, let's look at this comparison solver, right? You'll notice there's no short output here, right? The comparison solver is giving us, either a long output or a short output. It's not giving us both at the same time, right? So the slope solver is giving us both at the same time, but the AND node filters out, or it removes the short output here. It removes it because our comparison solver, right, it doesn't have a short output there. So it gets removed when we use the AND node. Let's see. All right, well, so I found out that works good for, when we're in a long situation, but it's not working when we're in a short situation. And the reason why is because our DI minus is actually sloping up. So, yeah, it's so... Okay, I'm going to have to modify... Yeah, I thought I could take a shortcut and do this with one slope solver, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So, all right, yeah, so this... I'm going to go back to my original plan here. So this slope solver is going to be looking at the DI plus only. So let me put that name back to DI plus like so. Yeah, all right. And I'm going to have to use a, let's see, yeah, another slope solver. Here. And we'll look at the DI minus on this one. All right, so we're going to set the DI minus up. Okay. Now, so when we look over here, right, when the DI minus is above, that's really a short kind of situation. But look, we're getting a long output. So really, we're in a down trend. So really, we want a short output. So let's reverse the output here. So instead of using the in direction, we're going to use the against direction, like so.
right? There we go. So when the DI is sloping down, we're now getting a long output, right? So that kind of works appropriately, right? When the DI plus is above, right? So for this, for this long trend, when the DI plus is above, now that the red plot, the DI minus, is sloping down, we're getting a long output, right? So that kind of matches up correctly. And now, when the DI minus is sloping up, telling us that we're essentially in a downtrend, we're now actually getting a short output for a downtrend. So let's connect that up, and I think we can connect all three of those to an AND node now. And let's take a look at this. It looks like we got one bar where our DI plus is completely flat. So let me take a look. Take a look at that DI plus slope. And oh, actually, wow, look at that. So it actually sloped down a tad bit. We can see that, yeah, we got a short output from, so we're looking at the DI plus, which is the blue plot there. And it actually sloped down. We can't actually see it, but, mathematically it did actually slope down just a hair. So, all right, so that absence spot is actually correct, technically. So, all right, so I think that's really as far as I can go there for Scott. So since Scott's not here to kind of fill me on anything that may be missing. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up right there. It's only a couple of minutes before 2, so I really need to wrap this up. Well, thank you guys. I hope this was a good eye-opening learning experience for those of you. And all right, so Andre and Bob, I will get back to you guys later on. All right, so everybody have a good Friday. Hopefully the weather's nice where you're at. You can get out and enjoy the weekend and stretch your legs. Because I know for me, sitting all day, I love getting out and stretching my legs. It feels good after sitting in front of the computer all day long. So, all right, guys, have a good weekend, and I hope to see you next Friday. Bye-bye.